This is Scratch Your Own Itch, the one show that delivers the conversations that we're afraid to share, but need to. This show is all about creating a life worth living. I'm Logan Tyler Nelson, and I'm your host. So, you're going to hear conversations with creators and entrepreneurs talk about what they do, their current and past traumas, how they became who they are, and what they are truly curious about. This is the show where we talk about the things we think about a lot, but need to talk about more. Please take note that this show is not a substitute for actually creating a life worth living, because this show will stir your beliefs, make you question what it means to create a life worth living. So my promise to you is to always give you one question to answer for yourself today to start turning your dreams into a reality. Hey, so before we get into this interview with Jay Wong, what an interview, all about an abundant mindset, which totally connects with something that I'm working on that I really want to let you know. I am working currently on a book called Breaking from Mental Hibernation, The Art of Scratching Your Own Itch. So, just because I know that Jay Wong has a very, very particular set of followers, the kind of people that are ready to just become change makers, as we talk about in the interview, people that are really ready to become the best of the best. I only feel like it would be an honor to share some of the work that I do in this book and to share it with you. And if you love it, I would love for you to just email me, logan@logantylernelson.com, and I'll put that in the show notes, of course, as an opportunity to get the first part of my book for free. I'll send it to you free. Just let me know what you think of it and if you think it has value for anybody. Because, honestly, that's what I want. I want more people to just really be able to think about the quality questions. That's why I started this podcast. But this book is more about beliefs. And I'm going to just share with you a few exercises that you can do in order to really start believing you're ready to make the next step. So I think it comes down to asking yourself this. I want you to first close your eyes. Don't do it yet. Okay, go. Alright, close your eyes. I'm waiting. Okay, your eyes are closed. And I want you to try to think about nothing at all. Alright? Have you thought about nothing at all? Okay. Think about nothing for just 30 seconds. Alright, you know what, you're listening to this, that'd be hard. So, how about 15 seconds? Awesome. So, I want you to try that same exercise again, except this time, I want you to pay attention about a specific thought or image that pops up. Try to keep track of it. Notice it. Note what it is. And then let that thought go. See if you can do that for a minute. For the next minute that I talk to you. So, in this interview, you'll probably hear Jay and I talk about abundant mindset. And we're talking about abundant mindset as a way to actually, change the world. And also change your life. Okay, so a minute probably went by. Did you think about that thought that you had for a little bit? Okay, what was it? positive? Was it negative? What was it? I want you to just answer that inside your head. Maybe it was a fight that you had with your brother the other day, or the assignment that was due yesterday, or maybe it's the things that you got to do tomorrow. So while you're listening to this, you thought about other things though, which means that you've got two things happening. The two conscious minds, right? Whoa. There's two conscious minds. And when you close your eyes and you try to eliminate any thoughts, you usually fail miserably. Actually, you do fail miserably. I'm happy you fail because that means you're alive right now. Because if you didn't think, that'd be no good. No bueno, as they say in Spanish. So, it was your mind watching your mind. In the Zen, they refer to the thinking mind or the observing mind. The problem with the thinking mind, though, is that we don't completely control it. This is our subconscious, right? Our subconscious is not controlled. You don't believe me? Okay, well, I'll prove you. Whatever you do, do not think about a pink elephant. Don't think about a pink elephant. Alright, don't think about it. Don't think about it at all. Alright. Okay. Don't think about a pink elephant at all while listening to me talk about this. Okay. Not only did you picture a pink elephant, but you also were watching yourself think about a pink elephant. So that's what the two consciousness do. They have the ability to think about one thing while thinking about another, which is kind of crazy cool. And the same thing goes for emotion. You can have emotions that happen at the same time. This fear, but also this excitement. Same time. And emotions are so much more valuable than anything else, only because it actually gives you the energy that you require to fulfill a task or a duty. When you're feeling super embarrassed, I guarantee you're not really ready to deliver any confidence and make anybody feel like you're ready to feel good, to actually make someone else feel good. If you're embarrassed, you're embarrassed. You don't want anybody else to know about it. But emotions are not a choice, but behavior is. How do you deal with being afraid of failure? Or how do you not worry about being rejected? I deal with fear and worry by dealing with fear and worry. That's what I say. But I feel the same fear and worry anyone else does. I just don't identify with it. I accept it and move it. And I actually move it into the unhelpful sort of fear category. Because our thoughts, we can't always control them. For instance, when I have to sit down and write something like this thing that I prepared for you today, I often get nervous. I want to write something really great because I know that so many people are going to read it. Or at least just that one person that I know needs to listen to it. And that result of nervousness is procrastination. And procrastination is just the worst. I mean, when I was younger, I was in a situation where I just got nervous, and so I would just procrastinate. And I would decide I can't do it because I'm too tired, or I can't focus like other people. I must have ADD. And you come up with all these excuses. It's that conscious mind thinking about thinking so much over to the point where you feel so nervous that you might have that thought of, I can't actually fulfill my dream because I want it so bad and I want it so perfect that I don't know if I can live up to that idea or dream. And that's the worst. So this is how you really change your negative thoughts. From not believing that you can do something to believing you can. Because it's the two consciousness that work in tandem. The one consciousness is giving you that negative thought, and that other consciousness is giving you potential. So the first exercise is whenever you feel a strong emotion or thought, disidentify with it and then take possession of it. So your boss hates you and feels like you're an idiot, but you are having the thought that your boss is an idiot. Or maybe you thought today, I don't hate my ex-girlfriend. I am feeling hatred toward my ex-girlfriend. Or you might have a thought, I am lonely and depressed. I am feeling loneliness and depression. See how that works? Whenever you feel a strong emotion, I'll go over it again just because it's that important. Disidentify with it and then take possession of it. So my boss is an idiot, but I am having the thought that my boss is an idiot. I don't hate my girlfriend. I am having the feeling of hatred toward my girlfriend or my ex-girlfriend. I'm not lonely and depressed. I am having the feeling of loneliness and depression. Language is so powerful. But if you disidentify from these emotions and the thoughts in a way, it does two things. It implies that they're temporary states. They're just thoughts. They're not permanent. And two, it forces you to take responsibility for them. They're nobody's fault. They are just thoughts. They are what they are. Exercise 2 is thank your subconsciousness, even the negative thoughts and emotions. You got to thank them. And this is a weird technique, but I think it really works. It's effective because it forces you to accept your negative emotions instead of fighting them. So you say, thank you, thinking mind, for feeling nervous before my date tonight. It will keep me on my toes. Or thank you, thinking mind, for being angry at my boss. I really appreciate how much you care. And this is really going to feel really bizarre, expressing gratitude like that towards negative emotions, but I think you'll find that it diminishes the power of the thought and emotion over time and actually impels you to take an action despite them. All right, so last exercise, exercise 3. Finally, if you find yourself in the heart of a moment, like something, or you can say heat of the moment, and there's something that really is nagging at you, I want you to try this. Take something that's bothering you. Hold it in your mind. Maybe it's your nagging girlfriend, or maybe it's the boss that you are just not having a good relationship with, or whatever it may be. Distill it into a single sentence, such as, I feel afraid of quitting my job, or I feel irritated by my girlfriend. I'll give you some time to do that. Now close your eyes and imagine Bugs Bunny saying it while chewing a carrot. Then think of Iron Man saying it while chewing a carrot. Now think of a Power Ranger that you watched when you were a kid, and he says it through his mask. Make that thought look and sound absolutely ridiculous in your mind. Take your time and play with it. Try to make fun of it. So, if the thought is really, I feel afraid about this interview that I'm about to go on, make fun of it. go, I feel afraid about going on this interview, and then think about someone that you know. Maybe it's a celebrity. Maybe it's Owen Wilson saying it. Oh, wow. I am just so scared about going on this interview. God. Wow. Like, I just don't know. I mean, there are so many people that go on interviews like this that might not make it. Wow. So I want you to have this thought and make fun of it. And I hope that made you laugh, because that is the worst Owen Wilson impression you'll probably ever hear. But whatever, I tried it. So separating your observing thoughts from your thinking mind is a habit that can take practice today. If this helped you at all, and if you want to get a copy of this, like in a printed out format, please Logan at LoganTylerNelson.com. Just email me, Logan at LoganTylerNelson.com. And I'm doing this to connect with you because I want you to really, seriously, no joke, learn what it is to break free from your mental hibernation and start scratching your own itch. In my opinion, this is the single most important step, is asking yourself if you'll really do it. Because it's the people that do stuff and don't just think about it that typically become not just a dreamer, but the person that they want to be forever. So if this helped you at all, please enjoy, and also get in contact with me. And if you're ready for an amazing interview, listen away with Jay Wong and myself. Hey, you. So, let's be honest. You've thought about this question. Or maybe you haven't thought about this question. This question about, how do you develop an abundant mindset? Seriously, think about this question. How do you develop an abundant mindset? If you haven't thought about this question, that's totally okay. But I know that for surely you've thought about this other question. This, how do I change the world? Like, how do I actually change the world? Because it's really, really, really everyone's dream on this planet is to be that one person. And it's not a selfish question to go after, to try to change the world. I mean, we all want to change the world. Well, you're in luck, because my guest and I today are on that same mission to find an answer to that question. My guest is Jay Wong. Yeah, that's right, Jay frickin' Wong. And if you're wondering who Jay Wong is, you're in even more luck, because he's creating enormous impact in so many people's lives. And he is surely on his way to changing the world. Jay Wong is a serial entrepreneur, a business advisor, real estate investor, and the host of the #1 self-help podcast on iTunes. I mean, the guy has got it going on. He recently got named as one of the top 40 millennial influencers follow in 2018, and regularly inspires audiences of entrepreneurs, change makers, and thought leaders at some of the most prestigious conferences and seminars around the world. And I've been talking, like a lot. So I want to shut up and actually introduce the main man of the show, and the hour that we're gonna dive into is all about changing the world. So without further ado, Jay Wong, how are you doing, my man? Thank you so much for coming on Scratch Your Own Itch.
Hey, Logan, I really appreciate being on here, and I can't wait to rock this interview with you, brother.
Oh man, dude, thank you so much for coming on again. By the way, This is not Jay's first time being on the show. The last interview we had to get scrapped because my technology sucked on my end, and so I just kind of have to get that out of the way right away and say, like, Jay's just not a guy who just goes, you know what, I gave you a chance, screw you. I'm not. No, like, he's a dude that actually cares about people and the way that they could spend their time on this planet, because he's saying yes to this thing, so he's also saying no to so many other things right now. So Jay, thank you so much, man, for doing that.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? I mean, maybe our conversation last time, it was really good, or maybe it wasn't really good. But regardless, we're here now, right? And whatever that we're going to talk about, this abundant mindset, maybe this is the topic that we needed to talk about the first time. Just an idea.
Yeah. Everything. I don't know if everything happens for a reason, but I like to believe every now and then that things do happen the way they do for some weird, odd reason. We can spend all day talking about that, but I really just want to get into this awesome question and sort of reverse engineer, because I'll tell you what, Jay Wong wasn't born the Jay Wong that he is now. And people are out here like, I'm not Jay Wong. I don't have a #1 rated podcast. I don't have all these amazing speaking engagements behind me, but I want to reverse engineer and kind of possibility hack and ask Jay Wong how he got to where he is today.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a funny, journey. And I think everyone relates with the fact that I think a lot of times we don't know what we're supposed to do. We don't know what the next move is. We don't know how do we get from here, our present situation, to how do we get to where our dreams are? How do we get to doing the things that we love to do, that we say that we love to do? And how do we put ourselves through to the tests? And I spent a lot of my life wondering those questions. I share this with a lot of my students and people I work with, that I wanted to do what I'm doing now, Logan. Like, I wanted to do exactly what I was doing now, almost over 10 years ago. And I knew back then, I was in high school. I spent my whole life being, average, good, but never great at any one thing. And magically, I got an opportunity to speak at my own high school graduation. And after I was finished that talk, it wasn't because the talk was so pure and great and awesome, but I knew within me, that I wanted to spend the rest of my life doing that. Like, I could be great at that thing. And at that time, I didn't know who Tony Robbins was, or Les Brown, or Zig Ziglar. I didn't know any of these, personal development. I didn't even know the idea of personal development. I didn't know what business that would classify under. And I spent the next 10 years of my life going through the stages of, the normality of life. I listened to what my teachers told me I had to do. I listened to what my parents wanted from me, right? I listened to some of my friends and what they wanted to see from me, right? So I went to university and college. I went through business school. I went out and I got a job, and then I got a better job, and I got a more promotion. And then I went from a really crappy apartment to a really awesome apartment. And we were living in downtown Toronto in this beautiful 2-bedroom loft. And, the company was paying me to travel and to speak. And it seemed like this was really awesome and everything I wanted. And, the thing about that is that when you're faced, I think a lot of times with, what to do next, how to go to that next level, I genuinely believe, Logan, that we always know what our gifts are, what we want to be doing in a perfect world. And for me, even though all those things from the outside seemed really good, I knew it wasn't ever going to be great. And the reason it was never going to be great is because I was misaligned with where I wanted to go. And so thus started my journey, my search, my hero's journey of figuring out what was it? Like, how do I make money at any of this? How do I, go out and share my message with, on stages and virtually? And how do I do this thing called a podcast? How do I have a business online? How do I do these things and create multiple streams of income? How do I choose the lifestyle design? How do I choose, a venture in my life? I didn't know how to do a single thing. Pretty much anything I do on a regular basis now, from uploading a video to doing these things with you all here right now listening, I didn't know how to do from the very beginning. And I had to humble myself. I had to move, myself back in with my parents. I started everything in their living room, and I would whiteboard ideas, and I'd try to read blogs on how to grow this and what, this terminology meant. And none of it made any sense. It felt like learning a brand new language. And it was through that I was able to figure out how to launch a podcast. It was through the podcast taking off and getting a chance to collaborate and work with some of my own heroes. And I know you mentioned it in the past, but the podcast has been such an amazing, life-changing thing for me. I always say it's been a great business hack, but it's also been a great life hack, because it always got me in the rooms with the right people. And, now I'm fortunate enough to be able to give other people the same opportunity that I had, in terms of putting their voice behind their community, their products, their services, putting a voice behind their movement. And, I take that very seriously because I know what that was like starting out just a couple years ago. But yeah, that's kind of everything in a nutshell.
Oh man, thank you so much for that. That is, oh man, that's quite the story. Just because I think it shows that you took a lot of trial and you did a lot of failure as well. And it didn't happen in a day, and it didn't happen in a month. It took some time, and through that, you've developed this. What I introduced the show with, this sort of abundant mindset, and how one adopts that, and it probably doesn't happen in a day. So I want to kind of ask you, how does someone develop an abundant mindset, or develop a mindset to keep going when their definition is literally they're creating this thing in their basement, or their parents' basement, or under their parents' money. And then all of a sudden someone goes, hey, how are you actually making money at this? Like, let me see this. And you have to have that abundant mindset to go like, you know what? Screw you. Like, I'm not making money at this yet, but I promise I will. And I promise I'll create impact, and this will all lead to something, just so I can go, see. But I think that's like not really what someone's doing it for, to prove someone else wrong. They're really doing it because they do have deep down this desire to really change the world. So let's get super tactile with how someone actually goes and finds out that thing that they can service someone with, their own audience, their specific thing. And what do you think that thing is, and how does someone find it out? And I know that's a huge question. So
yeah. So let's address the abundant mindset piece. So because I think it's so crucial, right? In really answering your question in terms of figuring out what's that message, what's that passion that you want to get behind. You need to have elements of that. But let me talk about this before we jump to the tactics. Let's talk about the philosophy of it, because I think a lot of people have it misunderstood. And I think a lot of people have different definitions of this. And what you need to understand, and let me back up here, because when I first started, Logan, I thought that if I became the guy, right? I had all these jokes that I was going to be Asian Tony Robbins. And I was like, you know what? I would be Asian Tony Robbins, and I'm going to be the guy that teaches people how to overcome fear, because I boiled it all down. I mapped it all out. I said the biggest thing that's holding people back is fear, right? Some people agree, some people don't. Doesn't necessarily really matter. But my whole thing was that I'm going to teach you. If you work with me, if you listen to my talk, if you watch my content, then you are going to become fearless, right? And your life is going to be so much better, right? And that was the thing. That was my whole thing, because if I believed at that time that if you could overcome fear at will, then you will be unstoppable, right? And the reason I share that with you is because what I didn't understand at that time is that fear is part of being human. Having those fears, having those inner demons, those belief systems, those values that don't necessarily align to where you want to go. That's the whole fun part of being a part of this journey. I know, kind of a twisted way of having fun, but it's the human experience. And so if you actually became fearless, if you actually became so insensitive to fear and your beliefs around that, it makes you a little less human. And if it makes you less human, it might make you great as a high performer. But guess what? It doesn't make you great in terms of having empathy, in terms of being relevant to your customer. It doesn't make you great at connecting with them on a human level. So you need, what I'm trying to say is that you need the fear. You need the limiting beliefs. You need scarcity, or else abundance doesn't exist. Right? You need those moments where you go, I'm freaking out over here. I'm having a bit of, I'm panicking. I can't sleep at night because I'm so frustrated, but I don't know what I'm frustrated on, but I'm just angry with myself and I'm angry with the world. You need those moments in your life because it's going to show you the other side, and it's going to be able to guide you to actually find that abundance. And what you will find is that abundance is not something that you can go to the store and buy. There's no coupons or there's no Groupon on abundance. Abundance is something that you step into, right? I think every time I think about abundance, I think about Wayne Dyer. And some of you might have heard of Wayne Dyer. Some of you have not. But if you haven't heard of the late Dr. Wayne Dyer, I mean, he's one of my virtual teachers. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple years ago, but he passed away. I'll never forget it. He passed away 6 weeks after I started my podcast. And I've never actually shared this story before. But, the reason I remember that is because I wanted to ask him to come on my podcast. And in the beginning, I didn't have enough courage. I didn't know how to reach out. I thought I wanted to do it, a year from now, 2 years from now when I'm more established. And I'm always a little upset at myself that I didn't do it then. He probably would have said no. He probably would have said, I'm not doing interviews. That's not part of what I think. But I never got to ask. I never got to reach out to him and say, thank you for the work that you do. But one of the things that he taught me, not like, in person, but one of the things that he talks about in his program is that, success and a lot of these things that I think we go after, like abundance, right? Or presence, like any of these things that it feels like it's a bit intangible. Do you know what I mean, Logan? Like it feels like it's a little out of reach and you're not quite sure how do you have it. Like it's not something you could just put in your pocket. So then you could say, I have the thing. He says,
if only.
Yeah, like if only, right? Like, let me just put on this abundance, and it's like a jacket you wear and you're like, you're good. You're done. The podcast is done. Like, go home. So one of the things he said, and I don't remember which program, I don't remember when I heard it, but I always think back to it. He says, it's all those things, like success is like water. You can't do that much with water. If you go to like a waterfall and you try to you can cup the water, right? But if you try to hold it, if you try to put it in your pocket, if you try to throw it to someone, right? Like you can't do that much water. It just breaks apart, right? It's water. It's not a solid, right? And so what can you do with water? And he says, achieving success, achieving abundance is kind of like water in the sense that you can't just hold it. But what can you do? You can sit in it. You can enjoy it. You can use it. And so that's how I think about success. That's how I think about abundance, is that I can sit into those things. They're not necessarily a part of me, but there's something that I can enjoy, that I can tap into if I choose. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that's really cool that, oh God, like you're definitely, I'm geeking out over this, man, because I think that it's so hard to quantify into someone's mind right away that this is success. Like I've got tons of money, and I love that your show is about legacy over currency, because to hold money is quantifiable, right? Like I count how much money is in my bank, and that means I'm successful, baby. Like,
Sure.
yeah. Or there's this quantifiable thing, which is, you know what? Like, there are 1,400 people that came to something that I really, really care about, or there are 1,400 people who came to a funeral of mine because I somehow fell into that definition of what it means to just be a good person.
Mm.
And so, like, I guess it's what sort of questions are you asking yourself throughout the day? This is what I'm getting from this, Jay. And
Sure.
And also, like, sort of what kind of definitions are you trying to label yourself with? Because if it's someone who is, yeah, that guy will make me money, and I'm gonna go to that guy to hang out with him because I know he'll make me money, I'm gonna go to that guy. Or that guy will just make me feel good when I'm around him, so I know I'm gonna go to that guy. And so I want to ask you, like, what is the guy that you think you'd like to be around more? And
so
yeah,
let me answer it like this, because I wanted to make sure that, we leave our listeners, you ask for some, tactics, right?
yeah,
In terms of
yeah.
how do you actually live and step into that, right? So, to answer your right now question, I mean, that's the guy that I want to be, and that's the guy that I am. My clients, my students, people that work with me, they know that if they work with me, they're leveling up, right? They're stepping into a new reality of themselves. They're stepping into becoming a greater leader for themselves, for those around them, right? They're creating a bigger impact by those standards. So the way that I do this, though, tactically, the way that you break this down, there's a lot of like little things. Like I've come to realize that I don't even know it. I'm so deep into it sometimes that it's not like I have a checklist that says, did I do the 15 things today that's going to help me be in abundance, right? I'm not a checklist driven guy. Maybe that's a downfall of mine. I'm open to that. One of my coaches will tell you that that's a huge downfall, right? But the one thing that I do every single day, and I know it probably seems cliche, is that I put myself in a state of gratitude. And in a state of gratitude, you can't be scared of your dreams. You can't be angry with anything in life when you're in true gratitude of the life that you have, the ability that you have. And let's just get real here. If the fact that people are listening to this, if you are listening to this, you're walking somewhere, you're sitting on a bus, you're in the car, you're at your office, we see you, we hear you. If you're listening to this, it probably means that you have a cell phone. It probably means you have access to a computer. Doesn't matter if it's Windows or Mac. It probably means you have access to the internet, right? If you're listening to this in the car, you have a car, I mean, I think it gets lost on people sometimes that we are living in such a technologically advanced world, and a world with the internet where you can learn and you can look up anything with mere seconds, and that you could choose to learn from people that have already passed away, and you could find, old movies and old audios and old programs. Like, I think people forget sometimes how awesome their own life is. The fact that you probably had 2 or 3 meals today. The fact that you could stop right now, you could stop everything right now and just do 3 deep breaths and remind your body that you are in abundance of oxygen, because we're on a planet that has tons of it, right? And you know what I mean? Like, so I think the biggest thing for me is something I do with my girlfriend every day is that we go outside and we go for what's called a gratitude walk. And I don't remember, I think it was Tony Robbins who came up with this, but I learned it from someone else. And we begin our walk, and it's not very long, 10, 15 minutes, sometimes 20. If we're really, having a crazy day, then maybe half an hour if we really want to get away. But we begin to tell each other things that we are grateful for that are currently, this is very important, currently in our lives, and things that are coming in to our lives. But the way that we talk about it is it's as if those things are happening. It's as if those things has happened, right? Because here's the thing. When you talk about things that has happened, there's a certain level of certainty, right? I saw this person rob the bank, right? There's certainty in that, right? I see the person stealing money from the bank, right? If you talk about your dreams and you talk about things that you want in your life with a level of certainty, you could get to a stage where you don't even know what's real anymore. And that's fine, because the truth is you gotta go a bit insane to do any of the things that we've been talking about. To even be open to this conversation, you have to believe that the current situation that you're in is not honestly giving you the results that you really want. And sometimes that's a very painful realization, to know that you're not doing the most that you can, that you're not living up to your potential, that you're letting your fears and beliefs and whatever it is hold you back from the life that you truly want. That sucks. That's why people are smoking marijuana and drinking alcohol and doing cocaine over the weekend, to forget that they are not doing some of those things that they know that they should be doing. They're not living up to the potential. They don't want to be reminded of that. So going back into tactically, how do we live this way, is we do this gratitude walk every day. One, you're going outside, you're oxygenating your body. That's a perfect, awesome. That's an awesome thing. But two, we're stepping into gratitude. We're becoming certain about the things that we're creating. We're becoming grateful for the people that are in our lives. Someone told me at some level that the more gratitude, we always get what we expect, right? And so there's a certain level of, even with that sentence, there's a certain level of certainty with that, right? And so what you appreciate more tends to appreciate. Does that make sense? And so that's one way. I mean, that's like the basic, like overarching principle. Another one is I drink tons of water, right? And it's not because of all the science that says you need to drink X amount of liters or X amount of things. That's not why I do it. Okay. I do it. I know the science, and I know that that's good. So much of our body is made up of water. A lot of times when you're getting brain fog, it's because you're dehydrated. Yes, I get all that. And that's amazing. You should drink water from a high performance standpoint. I drink it. You know why I drink it, Logan? Do you want to know why?
I'm like, dude, if you don't let me know, I'm going to freak out.
You're going to have to tune in to part 2. I'm just joking. So I drink it. All right. Listen very carefully. I drink it to tell my body that I am in abundance of water. I tell my body that you do not need to go crazy. You do not need to go on the reserves. You don't need to start burning excess fat or carbs or whatever. Like, I'm not a health coach. Okay. So don't listen to me for health advice, but I drink it to remind my cells and to remind my body that I am in abundance right now. I have an abundance of water. I could drink 2 liters if I choose to. Probably not the best idea, but I tell my body that at the cellular level, don't worry, I got you. I got you. I'm right here. And I'm feeding my body. And those are just like such tiny things, but on the outside, it just seems like I'm hydrating. But what I'm really doing is I'm reminding my body that you are enough. I have enough, I'm great today. I'm not great tomorrow. I'm great today. And you're saying those things with certainty, with your emotions, with your thoughts. And by going through, and there's probably a million things throughout the day that I do that's just like that. That the only reason I do it, from from the reason I choose to do it, is to remind myself I am in abundance of my life. And I'm in abundance today. And that's the whole thing. It's not to delay your truth. It's not to delay your gifts. You know your gifts. You know some of those things that you want to be doing. It's to step into that and be willing and courageous enough to step into that and say, I am enough today.
So cool. So cool. Yeah, I say at the end of every single episode is, you matter and you're enough. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Dude, that's awesome, because it just allows you to finally program your brain into going, okay, I'm not here yet. I don't have this thing yet. That doesn't matter though, because you don't have it yet. It's something to chase for. If you already had it, then, not to be super morbid, but you could just check out and say, all right, I'm done. I have nothing else to kind of do on this planet. And that's even scarier. I'd rather chase after something fail at it, and I know you're with me on this, Jay, you chase at something that you really, really want to go after. Once you get it, which you've gotten to that point and where like, oh God, I have this huge idea and now I want to actually like do it. And then all of a sudden the dream comes true, right? So my next question is sort of like, let's get tactile now. Let's kind of pivot and go into the real, we know the why, right? And we know the little, and we know little hows too of how you stay on this road of having an abundant mindset. But I also want to know too, like, what are the little tactics and little tricks, such as using, let's geek out a little bit on tech stuff, if that's okay with you. Let's use how you actually find out the very minimal viable product that you can put out there today to start actually seeing some wealth into your pocket. Not to go like, because I'm not all about money, but like you said earlier, we were off this talk and we were talking about just like, money is a tool, and unfortunately all the people that are listening to this could have a different definition of their own money or whatever. They might go, oh, this guy's money hungry, I want nothing to do with this now. Or they have a definition of, they know that money will actually lead them to be able to actually talk at a larger scale, really affect more people's lives. So I've talked a lot, and there's probably a lot of questions inside that. So I want to let you kind of unpack that.
Yeah. So when you say tech, do you mean on like the business front of things? Like what do you mean specifically when it comes to tech?
Yeah. How does someone make that first minimal viable product?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it comes down to being authentic with your audience and being authentic with yourself. And this kind of ties in perfectly to what we're talking about, because the way to create a minimum viable product is to not do it alone. I'm going to say that again, because I know some of you missed it. You thought it was just another sentence. It's not. It's going to cost you money and time if you don't pay very close attention to that sentence. You do not create a minimum viable product alone. What that means, what a lot of you probably think it means, is that you got to build a team around you. Sure, I am a big believer that you need a team around you, but let's be honest. Let's keep it real. Sometimes in the beginning, your vision and your thing, whatever it's called, it's such a mess. Do you really want to bring someone in on that? Right? Like I remember when I first started, it would be virtually impossible for me to explain myself to anybody else, because it was impossible for me to explain myself to myself. Right? So let's just say in this example, you got you. Okay. What do I mean that you don't build it by yourself? You build it with your customers in mind, because your product needs to solve a certain pain that they have. The mistake that Logan, a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of first-time creators and course creators and online marketers, the mistake that they do is they go in their bat cave, they go into their, thing to write a book, to create a course, to do whatever it is that they think they need to do. They do it for 2 months, 3 months, and they come out, they go, everything is done. And fundamentally, that is the worst thing that you can do. And the reason being is because you never took in account the most important thing in a successful product, which is the feedback that you get from customers. Not just any customers, people that have made an investment in themselves and in you. Meaning you got them to pull out their credit card to make an emotional decision to purchase what you had. And what it goes back to how I started this answer off, which is it comes back to being authentic. It comes back with, are you confident, but are you willing to be honest in your confidence? Are you willing to say, hey, what are the things that you guys are struggling with, right? And if you're struggling with those things, right, let's just say, I don't know, it's, let's just say it's like doing webinars, okay? So people are struggling doing webinars. You hear this all the time. You coach people for free on it already. Tons of, all your friends come to you to talk to you about webinars. Okay. So you reach out to everyone and you honestly say, hey, look, I've never taught this before, but I'm thinking of creating an online platform, an online course, a mastermind, a retreat, a book, something to teach people on how to get better at webinars. I would love for you to be a part of it and for you to make that investment in yourself. And look, it's going to be 50% off the retail price. But you're honest about it. You're honest about the whole transaction. And that's honestly how I made my first dollars online. You know, I was stuck in a lot of ways consulting businesses. And I was stuck trading, I'd end up, I would get these speaking engagements and I would end up getting hired as a consultant, which was, felt awesome. And, I would end up training their teams and that was it. It was very transactional, right? And it wasn't until that I made the connection that I can be honest with my audience, that I could give them a more world-class experience by serving them through a beta of my course, then I'm able to have more of a greater impact, because now we have students enrolled in our programs from the UK, everywhere in the US, from Canada, some in Italy. And so one person's in Australia. So like now it's more of a global impact, and they don't need to make, they don't need to be a company with a budget to hire a consultant. And we're helping everyday people, everyday messengers and leaders to be able to monetize their voice. And so I hope that answered your question, but that's how I would go about creating a beta for anything.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. I'll tell you what, I would love to talk to you for another 14 hours, but I think there's a lot of value already packed in this. But before we leave it out, I do want to ask you sort of just a few scratching the surface, curiosity questions. Just first thing that comes to mind, sort of things that I've been trying to ask many of my guests that come on the show, just because I know that by answering these sort of questions, this will start to shift your belief systems. And by shifting your belief systems, we can kind of go into becoming the people that we dream of becoming, the people that we look up to, and sort of so whenever you're ready, we'll go for that. Okay,
let's do it.
Awesome.
I'm ready.
Awesome. So the first thing is, what was a belief that you had 10 years ago that if you asked yourself the same belief, you'd go, what the heck was I thinking? Like, oh God, I can't believe I had that belief system, but now I'm happy I have this new belief. What is that belief?
The only belief that kind of came to mind throughout this whole thing was, am I enough? Am I enough? That's the belief that I think a lot of people resonate with. Are they good enough? Are they enough just currently? And to kind of tie this all in nicely, I mean, it's the biggest one that I think we all battle on a constant basis. And I think you have to have triggers and certain systems in place so that when it inevitably happens, where you have those days where you feel like you should fire everyone and fire all your customers and just start over, or just go do whatever it is that you want to be against everything that you want to do, that you remind yourself that you are enough and that you're able to help people today.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. Because that's like the best motivation in the world, when you see some sort of delivering of something that you did, and then you got a response from it, and you changed someone's day, and that's awesome, man. So the next thing that I'd like to ask is, if you could take anybody throughout time. I know you mentioned Wayne Dyer, and you've had so many awesome guests on your podcast, which we will definitely plug in later, because I know that is just a value that you don't want to let go of. And I listen to that podcast like you're listening to it while spending $1 billion, because it's worth your time and that much money. But anyways, if you could sit down anybody for 1 month and be them, who would it be and why?
And just learn from them? Just hang out with them?
No, you would actually be this person for an entire month.
Them. Be them.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. By the way, we I don't know when this is going to air, but we just had Naveen Jain on, and even this week we're going to be sharing his episode, second billionaire on the show. So going back to your thing, I mean, we listen to it because there are billionaires in it. So for me, I think one of the most interesting thinkers, I think a lot about, how people think about their thinking. And this is something I learned from one of my mentors, Dan Sullivan. He always said, the problem is never really the problem, right? Like whatever problem you think you have is never the problem. And it's like, well, what do you mean? Like my problem, like this is my problem. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like, the problem is you don't know how to think about your problem. That's the problem. And I always love that. So one of the best thinkers I always think of is Einstein. And I love the way that he was able to connect, any one of his like formulas or any of the things that he knew to normal day life, like examples, and how he's able to illustrate that and explain very complicated ideas to simple minds, to people that maybe had no experience, right? How he's able to draw these analogies and stories. I always try to do that with my work. I always try to do that with explaining some of these intangible concepts. So I'd love to figure out. I mean, I love studying all great thinkers because I think it's going back to Dan Sullivan. The problem is never really the problem. The problem is you don't know how to think about the problem.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've been really getting into the sort of alter ego thing. It's kind of, I'm writing a book, and I know that that's something that you wouldn't recommend to do, even if no one's asking for it. For me, it's all about the thing about, I know what you're about, legacy over currency. I don't really care if a single person asks for this book. I need to write this book because I want to write this book, and because I know that these tactics, if anyone reads it, just that one person will actually walk away with extreme amount of change in their life. So, yeah, to think about the way someone thinks is so incredibly important. Which leads me kind of into my next question, is to go even a little bit deeper, which is this question of what it is to be an interchange maker, which I totally stole from your show, man. Like what it is to be an interchange maker. What is that to you?
So it's the modern day leader. It's someone who recognizes that if they want to change the world, the way to do it is not to say outright that they're going to change the world and that they're going to, revolutionize whatever industry. Because the truth is, they're probably not ready for that. They're not ready for that spotlight. They're not ready to step into that person. The journey of that, they recognize, is that the only thing that they can change about anything, about they can't control anything except they can control themselves. And they could find ways of bettering themselves, changing themselves, becoming and stepping into the best versions of themselves. And a change maker is someone who believes that they believe that they can impact those closest to them. Maybe that you can impact those, in your community, in your state, in your city, and maybe at some level, when you're ready, that you could ultimately change the world.
That is amazing. By the way, I don't ask everyone that question. I feel bad for saying that, but I wanted to flip the script on you, my man, and go, oh, I want to hear his answer. This is going to be interesting. So that was exactly what I wanted it to be, because I didn't know what to expect, really, I guess, from that question. The last question, man, so we can edit out strong, is Jay, where can people become a friend of yours, not just someone that they listen to on this podcast and be like, all right, that's a hero of mine, because they definitely changed some sort of way I thought about a lot of things, but to actually like come out and be like, hey, Jay, like, I just want to say what you said on this episode. I want to Instagram it, or maybe tweet about it, or Facebook about it, because I believe that once I start actually putting out that sort of information out into the ethos, like I'll start to actually be the change that I want to step into. So how can people find you?
So this year, more than any other year previous, I'm becoming obsessed with community and with bringing people that I've heard, and it's not even about me, to be honest with you, because I'm not that smart. And, I've done some things right, but I'm not perfect either. And, the truth is, you're not perfect, right? And it's all good. But the thing is, I want to have a community of like-minded people in my life. And so you're a part of this already. And I started this at the beginning of the year. And I started this group called Legacy Driven Entrepreneurs. And it's just a group for other people that, whether you've heard my stuff, whether you haven't heard my stuff, but if you're in tune, if you're online and you want to create some level of legacy, if you want to put a voice behind your movement, you want to be able to spread your message and figure out how to build a business around that, I'd love to invite you guys to join the group. It's absolutely for free. And as I'm building more of my team, that's going to be a place that I'm going to be hanging out more and more of, and just building some systems there. I think, Logan, you're a part of it already. And so we have some amazing, talented people, entrepreneurs that are in there already. And it blows my mind that, that they're there. But yeah, if you're listening to this, I'd love to have you share any of your feedback, share any of your thoughts. If you got value out of this episode, go over there, share it with us. And Logan's in there as well. So we're more than happy to build a relationship that way.
Yes, that group is loaded with just people that are looking at this opportunity as not something like, hey, I read in this book and it really inspired me, but they're actually like taking active, not passive, active meaning in their life. I mean, joining this group to me should cost money. I almost wish it did. Jay, don't charge me, please. No,
we're leaving it for free. We really want to have as many legacy. If you vibe with any of this, right? If you want to be around other people that are creating legacy, I'd more than happy to have you guys. I mean, we have our paid programs elsewhere, and we obviously separate the two groups. But don't get me twisted. If you join the paid programs, I mean, the investment's high, but what you guys get back in return is crazy. So join the free group and hang out with me that way. Don't do anything more before you do that.
Awesome. Super cool. That's the next step that you can take, because there's a lot of options that you could take right now. And if you want to know more, if you want to find out more, these tactical advices that we were talking about, minimum viable product, maybe that's the first time you've ever heard of that. And that's okay. That's cool. You could join that group and find out more. And I believe that's why I created this show called Scratch Your Own Itch. All about curiosity. It's solving that problem, that personal problem that you have in your life that you can solve for yourself and actually help a lot of other people doing it. And that, I tell you, is the best thing in the world. That's Drano to depression. That's Drano to feeling like you don't have a purpose. That's Drano to feeling like you're all alone in this world doing just nothing and your voice isn't being heard. But I'll tell you what, if you join this community, your voice will be heard, and your dreams. I don't want to be like Tony Robbins. Your dreams will come true, but they can come true if you just stick around the right people. So with that being said, thank you so much, Jay, for coming on Scratch Your Own Itch, man. I'd love to have you again, and definitely check out his podcast. Please just look in podcasts on iTunes, Android, whatever device you can access a podcast. Is super simple nowadays. They have this thing called Google. You can just Google the Interchange Maker, and I guarantee that podcast will come up. And Naveen Jain, if you don't know who he is, your mind is going to be blown. So I can't wait until you listen to that episode. So I want to roll out this podcast as soon as possible so you can listen to that as well.
Hey, Logan, just wanted to say thank you so much. And really appreciate the time and for diving into a topic that is not discussed as thoroughly as it needs to be. But really appreciate you leading the conversation, and thought this was awesome, man.
Dude, thank you so much, Jay, for that. It's really wild to even have you on the show, to be honest, just because I listen to your show all the time, and I'm like, wow, that's someone that I need to be around way more and just hang out with way more. So yeah, man, you're making dreams come true. My own dream of just having you on. So I really, really, really appreciate you. Keep doing it.
I appreciate it, brother.
All right. We'll talk later, man. All right, guys, there's another episode of Scratch Your Own Itch with Jay, Wong, and I. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this today. I really appreciate it. If you could please leave a review. Oh, that would mean so much to me. Just leave a review, what your thoughts are, what you think about the conversation we had, and to join either. You could do both. You could join Scratch Your Own Itch Facebook group, Create a Life Worth Living, and also Jay Wong's Facebook group. So please do that. He's the man. I seriously enjoyed this interview so much, and I want to invite you, though, to doing this. Just ask yourself, again, what it is to have an abundant mindset. All right, I know there's a lot for you. This was a packed episode. This was a value episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And you matter, and you're enough. Don't ever forget it.